Going around the sites of the Somme, it's really impossible to cover it all in just one day, but I'll pick out a few things. And this is the empty chair by Loch Nagar crater, and it is carved actually by a German forestier from an oak that fell in 2016 in a storm by the station, and all the soldiers would have passed there, coming out to the front and going back again if they survived. And this is to signify the empty chair at the table, those who never returned. And all the way round the crater is a boardwalk. Each one of these, the spot I've had, is just recognition of those who lost lives. Now we've got Major R. Houston, MC, and Lieutenant A. Houston. Just a few brothers who are next to them, both officers. And that was that. We've now come to Mametz Wood, and this is the Welsh Dragon Memorial, which is just stunning. And it's a memory of the Welsh division, who, having taken the village of Mametz, were trying to get the Germans out of Mametz Wood, where we are, and so 4,000 troops, this was on the 7th of July, managed eventually to take the wood, but they were, having lost 600 dead, plus another 1,000 plus wounded, they were exhausted and withdrew again. And this is just the most beautiful, beautiful monument. And reading the plaque beneath, having, as I said, having withdrawn, they then had further attempts, and eventually by the 11th they managed to clear the wood completely. But total casualties for this sector, just trying to read, 4,000 casualties. Just extraordinary numbers. If you look out over the views now there, going across the Stag. Yeah. They've also seen us. They're going across. The size of the red deer, but I'm not an expert in that. And we look at all these fields here, which will still be, will still contain the remains of thousands upon thousands of soldiers who were just never, ever found. And they'll be commemorated on the valor, which we'll come to in due course. And just taking a closer look at the monument in Welsh, I'm afraid I'm not going to even try and translate that, but looks like Pachyn y Cymdrachion Paid ein Hachochion. I'll give that one to Barry to translate. Just if you look carefully, see it's got barbed wire in. Now at the South African Memorial in Delville, or Devil's Wood, and this was a focus of attack by General Rawlinson in the second week of the offensive. He recognised he had to do something slightly different rather than the very well telegraphed full frontal, so he moved his troops up at night to where their starting point was, and only had a 5-minute barrage, which gave the Germans no time to get themselves sorted out, and so they were caught by surprise and there was a significant punch through, and the South African Brigade was part of that. The cavalry were supposed to follow, but sadly nobody told them, so they didn't, and the moment was lost. And on the other side of the road here is the cemetery itself. British troops, including obviously South Africans, many of them, plus there's others, but there's so many cemeteries here that I haven't stopped to tell this because we'd be here all night. So we've now arrived at the Ulster Tower, which is a replica of the tower in just outside Belfast, where the troops of the 36th Ulster Division, and they took part attacking on the first day. It's a very strong German position. They suffered 5,000 casualties. 9 VCs were awarded. We've now arrived at the Newfoundland Memorial, and Newfoundland, which claims to be the oldest British colony, having suffered the Dardanelles campaign, they had 1 battalion strength here, and of the 800, only 68 soldiers returned unscathed. Here the whole ground is just pockmarked everywhere with shell holes. Trees have also subsequently grown up. Just everywhere. And this is the hugely impressive memorial to the Newfoundland volunteers. That's lovely. Sitting there above trenches that would have been in their original state about 2.5 meters deep, requiring periscopes to see what was going on. And this is the forward trench line. This would have been the point at which at 7:30 on the 1st of July they waited for the whistle to go. All along here, lined up, complete with huge amount of baggage on their backs. I'm just going to walk up these steps here, and then that's when the machine gun fire would have started. German positions down below. Actually moving a bit further forward, that wasn't actually where I've just come up as a front line, but this was the front line trenches. It was about 10 yards further forwards. So that is no man's land there. Here we are back at the Caribou Monument. The names of the officers and men of the Newfoundland forces who died here. And elsewhere in the First War. Interestingly, there were 3 powers. And this view here gives you really the best you're going to get of positions here. So the front line trench we were at earlier on, and then in the distance there, that line of trees, that memorial's where the German lines were. And so that's basically a killing field in between. And here across it, see all the pot marks from the shells. And we fittingly end our day tour of the Somme battlefield, the Delville Memorial to the missing. As words fail to describe it really. I mean, the Menin Gate's huge, but this is so much bigger, and it's Lutyens' design. And this is a monument to all those tens of thousands of soldiers who were just never ever recovered. Their names are all written around the bases of the pillars. And here we are looking up at it. And it's glorious. Late summer day. We have 300 French soldiers lying along 300 British and Empire soldiers as a symbol of the Anglo-French cooperation during the entirety of the First War. And just pick out these just unknown. Soldier of the Great War of the Queen's Regiment, unknown to God. No known to God. Middlesex Regiment. It's a soldier of the Great War. Then the Queen's. There's something with a name. Lance Corporal. No, sorry. 16593 Private W. Bowden, Royal Fusiliers. Died 13th of July, aged 19. Corporal A. Hurdle, Royal Fusiliers, 13th of July, aged 37. Private Tulloch, Royal West Kent, 15th of September 1916, aged 24. Private R. Hughes, Royal Black Watch, 8th September 1916, aged 28. By the end of the fighting, on the 17th of November, British casualties totaled 400,000. Roughly the same by the French, by the Germans, about 200,000 French. 1st of July 1916, worst day in the history of the British Army started with the explosion of 16 underground mines, and this is the crater of Loch Nagar, and it is absolutely huge. It's difficult to grasp it on the video, but it's over 100 metres across and about 25 metres deep. And 10 minutes later the whistle went across along 14, 15 miles of the western front. 20,000 odd soldiers, no sorry, 200,000 odd soldiers got up in a very long line. The background to the offensive, by the end of 1915, both the Germans and the Allies had come to the conclusion that trench warfare was a bit stuck, and so they were looking for a big breakthrough. And so General Haig formulated along with Joffre, the Somme offensive, which was originally going to be under French control, roughly equal troop numbers, but because Verdun had intervened, this had two significant effects. One, it meant that a lot of the French were diverted down to Verdun, so there were only 5 divisions left as opposed to the 16 British divisions, so it then came under General Haig's control. And the plan was that you just basically blast the German trenches to bits, blow off a few mines, and then Bob's your uncle, soldiers would walk in. Sadly, it didn't quite work out like that, because on this ridge over the course of the year the Germans had managed to build the most fantastic array of tunnels and deep dugouts, which meant, and because they knew perfectly well what was coming, they just waited down there, and as soon as the barrage stopped, it just became a race to who could get their machine guns out first, and unfortunately the Germans did by some distance. By the end of day one, the British had lost 60,000 casualties, 20,000 of which were dead. To put that in perspective, the total regular manpower of the current British Army is 75,000. And over the course of the campaign, the Somme offensive went on through till November, 1.2 million soldiers of the British Empire. So there were Australians, New Zealanders, Canadians, Newfoundland as it was then, and from the Indian subcontinent, all of which took part and had their own piece of the battle. My grandfather was in the York's Lanks, and he was on the reserve divisions. I'm not entirely clear what element of he fought in, but anyway, clearly he didn't. We don't have any record of that. He obviously survived unscathed to fight in the Second War as a reservist. Unfortunately, despite the enormous size of this crater, didn't actually do a great deal of damage because it was in the wrong place, or not quite the right place. And so, just a salutary start to our little tour of the Somme. And here on the walls are just 1,000 of names. Still missing, never recovered. And we look out on these fields now, this gentle farmland. On the first day of the 65 odd thousand British soldiers who went over the top, day one. Within 1 hour, 50% of them were either dead or wounded.